Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel Wisdom Circle. I'm Monica Bay, also known as the Divine Mother. I am always here to bring you truth. Yes, I am. But today we are going to be talking with, or we're going to be channeling the cosmic collective consciousness in the channel Wisdom Circle. That's what we do. Channeling the cosmic collective consciousness, which is a very specific consciousness that streams through me. So I never know what I'm going to say until I say it. So we're about to just begin. Okay. So, welcome everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day already, and it's about to just get better and deeper. Okay. So, first, what the Cosmic Collective Consciousness wants to talk about today is anger. Okay, let's talk about it because we all feel it. We all get it sometimes, from time to time. Some of us are more angry than others. Okay, but but the question is, where does anger come from? And what do we do about it, and what is it, how does it affect us, and things like that? Why do we want to and it's okay, they're clarifying it's not just about anger, it's also about just negative emotions. It could be also jealousy, it could be fear, it could be yeah, things like that. But where do these things come from? They come from their, first of all anger is rooted in pain. Is rooted in emotional pain. And then where does that emotional pain come from? That emotional pain is triggered by trauma. Okay? So when you have an angry response to something, when you're angry at someone or angry at something, what you're really saying is something hurt me and I have a button to push. That's what you're saying. So, well, let me explain when I say I have a button to push, because many of you have heard me use that analogy many times. But when people say, "Oh, I'm triggered," or they're pushing my buttons. Well, those buttons and what creates those triggers are traumas that you've experienced. These traumas can be anything from small things, what I call micro traumas, which are like small things that happen in childhood that you as an adult today would be like, that was no big deal, but you as a child thought it was a big deal. So an example, abandonment. If uh, if something happens when you in childhood, something super simple where it's not obvious abandonment, but maybe your mother forgot to pick you up from school or something like that, and you felt alone and scared and abandoned in that moment, when all the other kids are getting picked up and you were forgotten. To a child, I mean, as an adult, you look back, you're like, okay, big deal, parents make mistakes. But as a child, that that really created that moment of feeling abandoned. And the child didn't as a child, you didn't understand that because you probably didn't even know the word, but you didn't understand what you were feeling, but that's what was going on. And so as you feel, as that child, child version of you is feeling that energy, that gets stored inside. Because why? Because we don't teach our children, which we should. Any of you who have children, by the way, you should be teaching your children this. But we don't usually teach our children how to handle emotion. We don't teach our children how to release energy. So what do children do? They bottle it up. They bottle it up. And guess what? Just continuing with the example of abandonment, every single time that happens in your life, and it'll happen a lot, it's happened to all of us, as you go through life, every time there is something that makes you feel abandoned or reinforces that initial feeling of abandonment, that button gets bigger. And that button gets bigger. Next thing you know, you're an adult, you're in a relationship, and someone breaks up with you, and that's just because they wanted to go on their own way. It really doesn't have anything to do with you. Maybe you're just not a good match, whatever. But it triggers that button because that button has gotten so big, it's easy to press. That button is just easy to press now. So everything that happens, it's a reinforcement of the abandonment that you originally felt. So again, that's just an example. It's not just abandonment. It's also people, making you feel like a victim, or you making yourself feel like a victim. But victimhood, uh, a lot of times that leads to anger issues later on in life, because if you feel that the world is unfair and you feel like everything is happening to you all the time, every time something happens that doesn't go your way, that you don't like, you're going to view it as that, because again, all these instances build up throughout your life, and then those triggers get, those are buttons to be pushed. So when I say that it's because you have buttons, that's what I'm referring to. And so what's the best way to stop that? Get rid of your buttons. So as an adult, as a child, you don't have much control over these things, over what you're holding on to, what you don't hold on to, because you don't know. This is just natural. But as you become an adult, and especially as you awaken to your power, and as you awaken to the reality of what's going on inside of you, you now have the power. So anyone who is using excuses why you easily get angered, if you are a person who easily gets angered and then you use an excuse, well, that's just who I am. That's not who you are. That's who you've become through the reaction of your experiences. Because remember, life is all just a series of experiences and our reaction to those experiences. And that's what determines who we are in the moment in terms of our personality and how we react to current situations, because that's just how we're built. That's just how it works. And so, but that doesn't mean that you have to continue to allow that. So if you are a person who gets easily triggered, or you have any triggers, it's important that you release those triggers. It's important that you get rid of them. And you do that through healing. You can do that through shamanic journeying. You can do that through hypnosis. You can do that through meditation. You can do that through energy healing on yourself. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but the reality is you have to get rid of the energy, not just the actually, I'm sorry, not just the yeah, not just like talking it through. Okay, that helps. Talking it through helps. It helps you intellectualize and understand things, but the energy has to be released as well. And speaking is a way of releasing energy, but especially when something is really stubborn, you got to get in there and rip it out. You just got to get in there and use your power, because you are powerful. This is what is so important for you guys to understand how powerful you are. You don't have to allow these triggers to continue. You don't have to allow them to continue to affect you for the rest of your life, to the point where you're saying this is just who I am. That's a limiting belief, because you don't really know who you are if that's who you think you are. Okay, let's talk about it. Wait a minute. Message. If that's who you think you are, then you don't know who you are, and you don't know your power. You're allowing patterns that have existed throughout your whole entire life to continue to exist just because they've existed. That doesn't make any sense. That is a powerless stance, not a powerful stance. Powerlessness is allowing whatever is to control you, to allowing whatever is to, especially if it's something that is causing a delay in your life, causing a pulling back in your life, and causing problems in your life. That's something that needs to gotten rid of. That's not something that should stay. But powerlessness is just allowing it to stay, because you're just allowing it to stay. So I want you to think right now, what triggers do you currently have? And you will, yeah, just allow the first thing to come to your mind. What triggers do you currently have that are buttons that people can push? Okay, or can be pushed by circumstances. So whenever this happens, that's what really, really gets me upset. Because again, pain is rooted, anger is rooted in pain. Okay, and all these things that I'm referring to, I was talking about abandonment and a bunch of other things. They end up creating anger later. So when you react in anger for something, again, you have to ask yourself, what is hurting me right now, and why is this hurting so much right now? Because a lot of times when we feel angry, we're like, oh yeah, we're feeling like all in our puffing out our chest or whatever. But the reality is, you're scared and you're hurt. That's the reality. So same thing. If anyone ever gets angry at you, they're scared and they're hurt. That's the reality. It's point blank. Period. Like if you're feeling that emotion, what's underneath that is pain, and a lot of times fear, because of that pain. And so we react. The reaction to that, the surface level of what we see is anger, but that's what's really behind it. So this is also why it's important to have compassion for people. Usually when people get angry at you, your immediate reaction is to get angry back, instead of understanding what's actually going on. Know that when someone is angry at you, also, that's because a button was pushed. That's because they have trauma, they have things that they have not gotten over, and they are feeling hurt and scared because of that. The fear comes from not wanting to be hurt again. That's what the fear comes from. The fear comes from not wanting to accept the reality. The fear comes from not wanting to go back to the state of being that they were in when they first experienced that trauma. So that's the fear. And in the acting out of that, out of fear, is defensiveness, is offensiveness sometimes. It's all of those things. Okay, I'm going to read some comments here. Let's see. Okay. So Love Light Leah said, I got triggered from circumstances around feeling abandoned by family recently. Okay. It was light and I dealt with it quickly and removed it. Good, good, good. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. You have to remove the button. That's a sense of what Love Light Leah just did. That is empowerment, not powerlessness. Okay. She was acting in her power. She was standing in her God form. Understand that life happens. We're not going to live this perfect fairy tale life where nothing bad ever happens. Okay. Nothing that we see as bad. Remember, good, bad, that's all perspective. But no one has a life that where nothing bad ever happens, where they don't have any emotional stuff going on. Like people, no matter how emotionless you think you are, you still have emotion. You're only hiding them or you're only pushing them to the side. So we all have emotion, okay? Some of us are more emotional than others, that's okay. But you have to know how to deal with your emotion. That's where emotional intelligence comes from. But back to the compassion piece, because that's an important point that I always go over here because the stream is coming from this direction. Anyway, the Cosmic Collective Consciousness wants to really, really stress the compassion part, because a lot of times you don't see that when someone is acting out towards you. You end up internalizing it and then you become the victim versus understanding what's really going on. This person is in pain. You triggered their pain. It doesn't make anything okay. It doesn't mean that whatever they're acting out in anger is okay. But there's a level of understanding. When you have a level of understanding and compassion towards other human beings, then you can also, it makes you more resilient to the things that are going on. Because if you can see the bigger picture and say, okay, this person is acting rude to me, they're in whatever, clearly they've got something going on. And that could be my business, it could be none of my business, okay? But I don't need to take it personally because I know that I'm only the person that this is being directed at right now, but I'm not the source and I'm not the real problem. And I'm not, this is someone else's problem. And as a healer, you can help them with that, or as if you feel called to do it. If you don't. Everyone has their path and their journey, and that's okay. But when you stop taking things so personally, it allows you to not hold on to it as much as well. Because even after you've removed your buttons, after you've removed all your triggers, new triggers can form because it's a natural part of the way we experience this human experience. We take emotion, we take circumstances, we take situations, we remember them, and our physiology wants to avoid pain as much as possible. So our brain wants to avoid pain as much as possible. So what happens is we take these experiences and we say, okay, when that happens, I don't like that. When that happens, I don't like that. So now I'm just going to avoid this altogether. And so these are the things that naturally start to happen. It's completely natural. And this is why you have to actually start to go against your own nature sometimes in order to secure your wellness. And so going against your nature is not holding things and not taking things personal, being able to see the bigger picture. And this is also part of awakening. As you awaken more spiritually, then you begin to understand these things so much more easily. Like if I am seeing a situation happening in front of me with two people, I can actually see, because I'm very awakened. There's always more awakening to happen because it never ends. But I can see what's really going on. I can see, okay, this person's hurt, that person did, whatever. I can see what's going on, so I see the bigger picture. And same thing if I'm in anything, I don't really have those situations happen to me anymore. But if I were to be in any situation, I would be able to see that and not be able to take that personally. So again, that's part of awakening, of being able to see the bird's eye view, not get so caught up in the I would say in the ego, not get so caught up in the ego. And by ego, I mean that I am, that individual as you as a person. When you're able to see other human beings as other beings of light, which at the end of the day, if we're really talking about it, there is no separation. Again, we have illusion of separation. We're all one. But talking about it in 3D reality, where we see that illusion of separation, our ego accepts that illusion of separation. When someone does something to us, we internalize it. And what happens when we internalize it? It goes inside. That's what internalization means. It goes inside. Where does it end up? In your root chakra and your heart chakra most of the time. It could end up in other chakras too, depending on what's going on. But most of the time, your root chakra and your heart chakra. And what happens when we just allow those things to build up over time, never cleaning that out, never dealing with those issues? Then we end up having problems. Remember, our chakras are connected to our organs. Our chakras are connected to our nervous system. Our chakras are connected to everything, our entire body. Okay, they are the energy centers that begin to run the entire energy body that we have, including our meridians and everything else, our nadis, all of those. So if you are not cleansing yourself, and if you are just allowing things to build up, you're creating blockages everywhere in your body. And that also creates issues emotionally. It also creates more issues mentally as well. And it manifests in people very, very differently. It depends on who you are. You guys know my story, how I was, well, maybe some of you don't, maybe some of you are new, but how I used to be paralyzed, partially paralyzed and temporarily paralyzed back in 2005 to 2007. Excuse me. And it was, I had to heal myself. But what was causing it, I'm not going to tell the whole story right now, but what ended up, what I discovered was causing it, trauma. Too much, built up energy of trauma over time that was not released. And that actually led me to be the healer that I am today. That was like one of the major pivotal moments of my life, which I'm grateful for actually. But that's an example of how it manifested within me. It can manifest in you differently. It could manifest, in some people, it manifests as mental illness. In some people, it manifests as MS, lupus, all kinds of stuff. And some people, it can even manifest as cancer. So, and some people, it's more mild. So everyone's different. But the reality is, this is why you have to take care of your vessel. And this is why the Cosmic Collective Consciousness says in the 3 pillars of life that the vessel is the number one. The number one thing. If you could only focus on one thing, the vessel is the number one thing that you should focus on. The vessel being both your physical body and your energy body. If you don't focus on your vessel, it's very hard to do everything else, because now you're dealing with all problems left and right. Because when your body's breaking down on you, it brings you back into survival mode. You can't focus on transcendent mode in terms of your spirituality when you're just trying to get by. You're just trying to live, you're trying to walk, you're just trying to have a day where you don't feel like crap. It takes the energy away from the other 2 pillars, which is your life purpose and your soul growth. So again, this is why that is so important. So when it comes to your emotional wellness, when it comes to anger, it comes to abandonment issues, when it comes to just all the emotional things that you may have going on, you have to take that seriously, and you have to start focusing more on clearing things out and making sure that you are emotionally well, and also dissecting things inside of yourself. Introspection is key to emotional intelligence. If you are not looking within, then you don't understand what's going on, and you'll just see, okay, this person made me angry, and you're blaming the person for making you angry. Are you a puppet on a string? Can people just make you angry? Can people, and in some cases the answer is yes. And if that's the case, you have too many buttons that can be pushed, and you need to remove the buttons. Okay, so what we want to do is focus on compassion for ourselves as well as compassion for others. That compassion for ourselves is, it's okay if you get angry. Like, it's okay if that happens. But as soon as you recognize that it's happening, now it's time to do the work. Now it's time to shift that. And while you are currently working on removing those buttons will still be there to push until you remove them. And so that's a lot of inner work. And there's plenty of meditations here on YouTube. I know we're live in a couple places, but on YouTube, there's plenty of meditations in the Mystic Temple channel that you can take that will help you release negative energy and things like that. Also, if you are in Mystic University, there's an entire library of meditations and hypnosis recordings that you can listen to at your leisure that will really help you remove everything. And plus, if you're in Mystic University, we have a self-healing series as well, so you're being taught that anyway. So, but however you do it. You have to you have to make sure that you are doing that introspection. Without understanding what's going on inside of you, there's no way that you can really begin to change and heal yourself. Everything starts from within, and that's not an Instagram caption. That's real. Everything starts from within. And no, you are not a puppet on a string, or at least you shouldn't be. And if you are allowing other people to control your emotions, to control your output, to control your reactions, then you are being controlled, and that is a state of powerlessness. And that's not what we're all about. Okay. With my neck rolling and everything. All right. All right. I'm looking at comments here. I didn't even trust my own body at one point with my nerves. Yes. Yeah. And let's talk about that, since Quentin said he didn't even trust his own body with regards to his nerves. Your nervous system, I mean, it is just insane what holding this energy does to your nervous system. And again, using my own story, when I was paralyzed, that was a nervous system issue. I also ended up with an anxiety disorder, which I never had, and that's a nervous system issue too. And so I'm telling you, this energy it will destroy your body. It will destroy your quality of life. And so that's why this is so important. And that's why I speak of this with such passion, because I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. And I've seen other people go through even worse. And I don't want them to go through that either, or even less. I don't want you to go through anything, because you're holding stuff in, especially when you know that you can do something about it. Suffering is a choice. That's what the book of Rashida says. Suffering is a choice. Why is it a choice? Because you have the right to choose your reactions. You have the right to choose to take action and put your vessel first. You have the right to choose. You have a choice in how you proceed from here on out. You have a choice. And so any suffering that happens because you didn't make the right choice, that was your choice. Everything that you experience in your external life is a result of what's going on internally. And so again, everything starts from within. You have to do that. Yes, de-stress daily. Exactly. You have to do that. So can't say that enough. But what I want you all to do is, whatever that thing is that is causing you any kind of strife from within, or creating a bad reaction, where when this happens, I'm really good. A lot of people say stuff like this. I'm really good at controlling myself, except for in this type of situation, it just gets me. Then you know that you have a trigger that needs to be removed. You have a button that needs to be removed. That's the trigger. But where does it come from? Don't just look at the outside. So if you say, okay, every time someone lies to me, that really gets me going crazy, right? So if that triggers you to the point, that's okay to not like something, but when I say trigger something, obviously no one likes being lied to, but when I say trigger, if that just gives you like a visceral reaction where you are just in a whole separate mode, instead of just like, why are we lying? Like, you are in a whole separate mode, right? That's a trigger. And you can't just look at the trigger. You have to look at, where did that come from? And follow the trail until you get to the very beginning. Some of those triggers may be in a past life. Most of the time, visceral reactions like that, they're in this life, but they could also be connected to a past life. But I'm just putting that out there so that you're aware that it could also be in a past life. And it could also be in another dimension. There's a whole lot of things going on. But but follow it to its source. Where did that come from? What is the root cause of this problem, of this trigger? Okay, someone lies to you and it makes you go crazy. Okay, because how many times did people lie to me in life? Let's go back to those situations. And where's the first time I was lied to or recognized I was lied to? How did I feel? Usually that will be your source, usually. And don't minimize, especially because a lot of things comes from childhood, especially in the root chakra holds a lot of energy from age 7 and under. it holds energy from today too, but age 7 and under, it holds a lot of that energy. So don't minimize the things that you as a child went through. Don't minimize it. So as an adult, you have a better understanding of things. So maybe if that happened, if whatever happened to you as a child happened today, you wouldn't be as like upset about it, right? Because you understand more. But you have to honor the moment of trauma as the child or as the younger adult or whatever. You have to honor the version of you at that time that was experiencing that and how they reacted to it. Because the more you minimize things, the more you're allowed to sweep it under the rug, and the more it's allowed to stay there. You have to face the monster to remove it. Okay? Message. Hold on, message. You have to face the monster to remove it. So you have to see it, but you won't see it if you're minimizing it. And that's what what I call micro traumas. You have to be able to, sometimes it takes a little bit to be like, oh, you know what? But at 12 years old, yeah, I that definitely affected me. I was crying, this and that. And so when you go back to that moment, now it's time to heal that moment. A shamanic journey is a great way to do that. There is, like I said, a free shamanic journey in the Mystic Temple, not Facebook, YouTube channel. There is a free, I think there's a couple free shamanic journeys in there, but yeah, there are a couple. But when you do that, shamanic journey is perfect for that, by the way. So in the shamanic journey, you would go down and go into the world and meet that version of you. Hypnosis is also very good at that. But just talking about the shamanic journey for a second, you'd meet that version of yourself and have a conversation and have a whole entire healing, send them energy, release them, all kinds of stuff will happen. And it will be so beautiful. And you will actually feel the difference, and you will notice the difference as well in your reactions, because I'm all about results. I don't know about you guys. I'm about results. So when I do something, I want to see a result from it, not just, oh, it felt good. I want to see I want to see that, okay, now I have a different reaction, or now it's easier for me to handle these situations, and maybe there's some more healing I need to do, but I see a difference from what I just did. And so that's what you want to see. And so, but you have the power to do that. You all have the power to do that. So I want you to focus on that, whatever it is that you're thinking of right now, that is a trigger. And you may have many triggers, okay? That's okay. I used to have a lot of triggers, okay? I don't have any, I don't have many more, which is why you always see me smiling, okay? It's not because my life is perfect. It's just because I'm always smiling, because I don't have any more triggers and I'm good. And life is beautiful because I choose to see the beauty. I don't choose to see the darkness. I choose to see the beauty as a choice. Suffering is a choice. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Have a wonderful day. And I will end in the divine language, which essentially means peace be unto you, Zor Kumti, and I will see you next time.